Okay, imagine this. You dig up a fossil in Transylvania, Dracula country, and you think, wow, a giant owl.
A huge owl, like 2 meters tall.
Exactly. That's pretty much where our deep dive starts today.
It's fascinating right off the bat, isn't it? How just one bit of bone can lead to such a, well, dramatic first idea.
Uh-huh. It really shows how science works. You observe, you interpret, and sometimes those first interpretations, they change a lot.
They really can.
So we're diving into Bradycneme Draculae. It's a dinosaur from the Late Cretaceous.
And our source material today, it's basically a look through the scientific journey of this fossil. The discovery, how they tried to classify it, the debates.
Right. And that's kind of our mission here, to track that process. You get to see how scientists piece things together, especially when the clues are, well, pretty fragmented.
So we want to figure out what we think we know now about Bradycneme, look at the different arguments, and just appreciate why these few bones are still so intriguing.
It's a great example of trying to build a picture from just, scraps. Okay, so that first discovery. The name Bradycneme, that tells us something, right?
Yeah, it means ponderous leg. Because the bone they found, this partial lower leg bone, it looked really stout, heavy set.
And this was specimen BMNH A1488.
That's the one. The distal end of a right tibiotarsus, found by Maud Eleonora Seeley.
Just that one piece initially.
Well, that specific piece was key. It's about 37.8 millimeters wide at the bottom.
And based on that, Harrison and Walker in 75 proposed this giant owl, 2 meters tall.
Yep. That stoutness suggested a very large bird to them. It's kind of amazing, the reconstruction they imagined from that single bone.
You'd think twice about walking in those woods.
You certainly would.
And they also described another one around then, Heptastornis and Drusisi.
Correct. And initially, they sort of lumped both Bradycneme and Heptastornis under another name, Elopteryx nopsi, which was also thought to be a bird. So the early thinking was very bird-focused.
Interesting. And the species name, Draculae. That's pretty evocative.
It is. Comes from Dracul in Romanian, meaning the dragon. It connects to the Dracula legends, of course, but maybe also hints at something a bit more formidable than an owl. A bit mysterious.
A bit of foreshadowing, maybe? Because that giant owl idea didn't really fly for long, did it?
No, it didn't. Quite soon after, actually, Pierce Broadcorb looked at the fossils.
And he thought.
Something totally different. He suggested they looked more like small theropod dinosaurs.
Ah, so not a bird at all, a dinosaur. That's a huge shift.
A complete turnaround. And it really kicked off a whole new phase of debate. Suddenly, the same bones were being interpreted in a radically different way.
So what happened next? Did everyone just agree it was a theropod?
Oh, not quite. It got complicated. Bradycneme, Elopteryx, Heptastornis, these names got tangled up. Scientists argued whether they were the same thing, different things, related things. They were synonymized, then split apart again.
Because the evidence is so limited, right? That's the cool problem.
Exactly. What we actually have are, let's see, 3 upper bits of femoral thigh bones and 3 lower bits of tibiotarsi, the shin bones we mentioned.
6 fragments in total.
Basically, yes. And the big question hanging over them is, do these 6 pieces belong to one species? Or maybe 2? Or even 3 different animals that lived at the same time and place?
Wow. It's like having 6 pages from maybe 3 different books. Hard to tell the full story.
That's a good analogy. It makes definite classification really, really tough.
Okay, so fast forward to today. Is there like a general consensus now? Or is it still messy?
There's maybe a prevailing view, but still definitely debate. The most common idea now is that at least one of these, probably Bradycneme, is likely a troodontid.
Troodontid. Okay, remind me, those are the small, brainy, bird-like theropods.
That's right. Fast, agile, probably feathered, a world away from a giant owl.
For sure. But you said there's still debate. So what are the other possibilities being thrown around?
Well, yeah, things are still being reassessed. One study, for instance, suggested maybe Bradycneme and Heptastornis are the same thing after all, and that they're actually basal tatanurans.
Tatanuri? That's a huge group, isn't it? Includes some really big predators way back.
It's a very broad group, yes. So that would place it quite differently on the theropod family tree.
Okay, what else?
Then you've got researchers like Darren Nayish and Gareth Dyke. They looked at it separately. They proposed Heptastornis might be an alvarosaurid.
Alvarosaurid. Those are the ones with the weird arms, right? Strong, short arms, one big claw.
Yeah.
Almost like little dinosaur anteaters.
That's them. A really peculiar group. And Naish and Dyke thought Bradycneme itself was maybe just an indeterminate Maniraptoran.
Anoraptoran.
Wow.
So still in that bird-like theropod group, but less specific than troodontid or alvarezsaurid.
Exactly, a broader category. And then, just to add another layer, Tom Holtz in 2011 suggested both Bradycneme and Heptastornis might belong in Alvarezsauridae.
Wow. Okay, so giant owl, then troodontid, maybe a basal titanuran, maybe an alvarezsaurid, maybe just a general Maniraptoran.
It really maps out the scientific process, doesn't it? New analyses, different comparisons lead to different hypotheses.
It's a proper paleontological puzzle,
Yeah.
and the missing pieces make it hard to be certain.
That's the heart of it. The fragmentary nature of the fossils just leaves the door open for these different interpretations.
Let's talk about context then. Where and when did this creature live? That might tell us something.
Right, so the fossils come from the Maastrichtian age. That's the very, very end of the Late Cretaceous. We're talking right before the big extinction event that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs.
The last days of the dinosaurs. And the location.
The Sun Petru Formation, which is part of the Hayeg Basin in Transylvania, Romania.
Ah, Hayeg Basin. That's the famous island of dwarf dinosaurs, isn't it?
Exactly. During the Late Cretaceous, it was an island. And lots of the dinosaurs found there show signs of insular dwarfism. They're smaller than their mainland relatives.
So if Bradycneme was a troodontid or an alvarezsaurid living there, it would likely have been a smaller version.
Very likely. It would fit that pattern. And being a theropod, even a small one, it might have been quite high up the food chain in that specific island ecosystem, maybe even an apex predator, relatively speaking.
A tiny terror ruling its island kingdom.
Potentially, yes. It paints a really interesting ecological picture.
And looking back at the whole timeline of figuring this out, it really is science in action, isn't it? You see the initial idea, then the challenges, the new data, the revisions.
Completely. You can trace the contributions over time. Harrison and Walker starting it off in 75.
Then Broadcorp shaking things up.
Right. Then people like Gregory S. Paul, Weischimpel, Luluf, Kasiki, and Grigorescu adding perspectives.
And then the more recent work by Naish, Dyke, Holtz we just talked about, each one added a piece or suggested rearranging the pieces.
It's a collaborative effort, even when people disagree. Each study builds on or reacts to what came before. It's how scientific understanding progresses, step by step, sometimes messy steps.
So let's try and wrap this up. What are the main things we should take away about Bradycneme draculae?
Okay, key points. Bradycneme is a dinosaur from the end of the Cretaceous found in Romania. First thought to be a giant owl, which was wrong.
Definitely wrong.
Now mostly considered a small theropod, maybe a troodontid, maybe an alvarezsaurid,
But the fossil evidence is really minimal, so its exact identity is still debated. Still uncertain.
that's the crux of it. A mysterious dinosaur with a complex scientific history thanks to those few bones.
And I think for you listening, this whole story is just a fantastic window into how science actually gets done. It's rarely a single eureka moment.
Right. It's more often a process of looking at clues, proposing ideas, testing them, arguing about them, finding new clues, and slowly building a clearer picture. Sometimes that picture changes dramatically along the way.
And it shows how even tiny fragments, just little bits of bone, can spark decades of scientific work and fundamentally change how we think about life in the past.
Absolutely. The Bradycneme saga shows the power of evidence, but also the challenge of interpreting limited evidence. Our understanding evolves as our tools and knowledge evolve.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Just consider that power. A few fossil fragments, enough to cause all this debate, all this research, potentially rewriting a chapter of prehistory. What else is still out there locked away in rocks, like those in the Hayeg Basin, that could completely challenge what we think we know about the ancient world?